every day, the struggle's real. Trying to survive on this battlefield.
While on the ground, the bodies lay. Another hashtag gon' fade away.
I'm getting tired, battered and bruised. You couldn't walk a long mile in my shoes, yeah.
I won't give up this fight, pushing to the finish line.
Well, hello everybody. It's an honor to have you folks being a part of this celebration. Just a quick introduction. My name is Leroy Hibbert, and I'm part of the London Black History Coordinating Committee in London. And there's also some other community members that are part of this. The committee itself, 90% of are volunteers, and we're celebrating our 20th anniversary, which is just phenomenal. So we're just quite excited about a wonderful program. Please sit back and enjoy yourselves. We have got many events taking place for the month of February that I will get into a little bit later on. But with that, our theme for this year is called Respecting Our Past, Embracing the Present, and Impacting the Future. So what I'd like to do to start off is by introducing Carl Cadogan, who is the chairperson of the London Black History Coordinating Committee, and he will be bringing the land acknowledgement. So we'll turn it over to Carl.
Thank you very much, Leroy, and welcome to everyone. I have on my desk a pocket-sized version of the Truth and Reconciliation Calls to Action. It is interesting to review this document again as a couple of things stand out. Call to Actions 70 through 82 speaks to the issues of residential school survivors and deals with issues that we have all heard about: unmarked graves, stories from survivors, respect and retrieval of records, and other elements that impact on this very important issue. Yet we are at crossroads as we seek to come to terms to the many examples of unmarked graves that have been discovered during the past year. So land acknowledgement is a small aspect in recognition and a start to address the immense wrongs perpetrated on Canada's First Nations peoples. I hope that this personal expression will inspire action and commitment towards recognizing and furthering our relationship with Indigenous communities. And that said, the London Black History Coordinating Committee acknowledges that this opening celebration is situated on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Lenape, and Adawandjum peoples, all of whom have long-standing relationships to the land of Southwestern Ontario and the City of London. The First Nations communities of our local area include Chippewas of the Thames First Nations, Oneida Nation of the Thames, and Munsee Delaware Nation, as well as a growing number of Indigenous urban peoples. We acknowledge and value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and all the original peoples of Turtle Island. We thank them for allowing us to use their land to live our lives, and we thank them for continuing to be stewards of the land and for their vital contribution to our society. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Carl. Appreciate that. And so we also have the national anthem for Old Canada as well, sung by my beautiful wife, Helen Hibbert. But before we play that for you, I'd just like to read a little bit about who she is. Helen Hibbert, who's married to Leroy Hibbert, which is me, is a Canadian singer-songwriter and Juno Award nominee. She graduated with an Associate of Arts degree, majoring in music from Carver College in Atlanta, Georgia, and has written over 22 original songs. As a vocal performer, Helen uses her gift extensively as a way to spread hope and love throughout the entire world. So ladies and gentlemen, Helen Hibbert. Oh, I'm back again. I just got lost in the moment. All right, wonderful. So what we're also going to do as well is I want to say thank you for my wonderful wife as well for that extraordinary performance. We'll have another welcome for you in English and also in French. And this will be done by John Pierre-Cantin.
Thank you, Leroy. Good afternoon, and on behalf of the London Black History Coordinating Committee, we would like to welcome you to our 20th year anniversary celebration. We are truly honored that you have taken out of your personal schedule to join us on this special occasion. Since its inception, Black History Month has provided an avenue where Black communities can be acknowledged, honored, and celebrated for their many contributions and accomplishments in the world in which we live. Bonjour tout le monde. Au nom du comité de coordination de l'histoire des Noirs de London, nous aimerions vous souhaiter la bienvenue à notre célébration du 20e anniversaire. Nous sommes honorés que vous ayez pris le temps pour vous joindre à nous en cette occasion spéciale. Depuis sa création, le mois de l'histoire des Noirs a fourni un moyen de reconnaître, d'honorer et de célébrer les communautés noires pour leurs nombreuses contributions et réalisations dans le monde dans lequel nous vivons. Le thème de cette année est « Respecter notre passé, embrasser le présent et avoir un impact sur l'avenir ». En plus de ce programme, nous avons un grand nombre d'activités exceptionnelles prévues pour le mois de février dont vous pourrez profiter et apprendre. Nous vous remercions d'être présents avec nous aujourd'hui. The theme this year is respecting our past, embracing the present, and impacting the future. In addition to this program, we have a number of exceptional activities planned for the month of February for your enjoyment and learning. We appreciate truly your attendance today, and I would like to introduce Leroy Hibbert, who will continue with the program. Leroy.
Merci.
Merci. Thank you very much for that. So we also have a wonderful guest today. We just got notification that they requested being here, which is the minister. But before I get involved in that or introduce the person being introduced, what I'd like to do is share this. Arielle Kayabaga will be actually introducing our minister, and you'll get the title and the details regarding this wonderful man. But before she comes on, I'd like to share a little bit about her. Arielle Kayabaga is a fantastic person. Some of her phenomenal accomplishments as far as even Black excellence is she's the first Black woman elected to city council, which is just phenomenal. She's the first Black woman elected as a member of parliament for the riding of London West. Arielle Kayabaga is the recipient of the Pillar Award as leadership. She's also in Chatelaine magazine named her one of 33 Black Canadians making change now. And she lives in our community of London. And she's a wonderful person. She has a wonderful family. And I'd like to turn it over to her as she introduces the minister for us.
Thank you, Leroy. Merci, Leroy. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est grand plaisir de vous revoir. Ça fait quand même du temps qu'on ne s'est pas revu. Thank you so much for joining our wonderful celebration of Black History Month and supporting our London Black community. It's been a while. I miss all of you. So I'm just going to go ahead and introduce our amazing special guest today, who is the Honourable Ahmed Hussen. Ahmed Hussen is the Member of Parliament for York South Weston, a community advocate and a lawyer. He has proudly represented the residents of York South Weston since 2015. Minister Hussen was appointed by the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as Canada's Minister of Immigration and Refugees and Citizenship. And he was also appointed as the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, and is currently the Minister of Housing, Diversity and Inclusion. Ahmed has and continues to be a strong advocate for housing. He is a trailblazer and a role model for myself and many other young members of the Black community, and not forgetting other people who are not young. I am proud to welcome once again, because he has come so many times to our London community, I'm proud to welcome him again here. Welcome my friend, my colleague, Minister Ahmed Hussen. Welcome to our London community.
Merci, Arielle. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. It is a pleasure to join you here with also other elected officials, including Peter Fragiscaros, Member of Parliament for London North Centre, as well as MPP Peggy Sattler, and I know Mayor Holder is either here or set to be here soon. It is really, thank you, Arielle. Listening to your accomplishments and the work that you have done fills me with pride, but I also know that there's more to come. So you're just getting started, and it fills me with so much pleasure to know that now you're in Ottawa making changes and representing your the community of London West in Ottawa, and making that representation as strongly as you had done previously as a city councillor in London. So I look forward to continuing to work with you and Peter and everyone in the London community. I wanted to really begin by acknowledging that I'm joining all of you from the traditional territory of many nations in the city of Toronto, the Haudenosaunee, the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Wendat peoples, and the Anishinaabe. And we are thankful to Indigenous peoples for allowing us to live, work, and play in this land. I also want to highlight the important work of all the community members in London to really make a difference in the lives of your community, of your neighbors, of your friends, and of your colleagues. And I always say that government can only do so much, but it's the community organizations that do the heavy lifting when it comes to the fight against poverty, when it comes to the fight to include that, to make sure that everyone has a safe and affordable place to call home. And equally important, the fight against racism and discrimination, making sure that the barriers that hold people back from fulfilling their true potential, that those barriers are eliminated. And I want to reassure all of you that you now have a government in Ottawa that has prioritized this and will continue to prioritize this, because we believe that diversity and inclusion should be and is at the heart of everything that we do. Because once you're able to make sure that everyone is involved and everyone is included in our decision making and in all aspects of Canadian life, then we're all better off as a result of that. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Diversity in Canada is a fact. You see it every day in front of us, but inclusion is a choice. And whether our institutions choose to include people or not is really up to all of us. So we have to prioritize that. And if you look at the systems around us, as we celebrate Black History Month, we have to remind ourselves that the institutions that we interact with every single day, whether it's the healthcare system, all these different systems, the education system that our children and us are involved in, the law enforcement system, the justice system, all these systems are in serious need of reform and further fine-tuning to make sure that they include everyone and that they include everyone's perspectives, and that there is no disproportionate negative impact on certain communities. And that is work that I think we all have to face. And I always say that it's tough work. It's not easy. It's a journey, but it is so much needed, and we will be the better of it. And we will set such an amazing example for the rest of the world of a society and a community that owns up to our shortcomings, celebrates our successes, but owns up to our shortcomings, and works every single day to improve those shortcomings. I think that is a really good example for the rest of the world in how a country can actually practice humility and not forget that you can be proud of who you are and your country and your land, while at the same time acknowledging that not everyone is included, and making a bond and and an agreement with everyone that that we have to do better. We have to do better for all different segments of our population that simply are not represented in so many different systems that we take for granted. So I want to obviously also highlight the fact that Black Canadian history is Canadian history. Black Canadians have been and continue to be part of Canada's story for the last 400 years and will continue to be. And, you know, for me, it's Black History Month cannot be limited to 1 month. Black Canadian history transcends the month of February. And that's why this year's theme is February and Forever, because the story of Black Canadians, the successes, the contributions, and the excellence far transcends 1 month. And so I'm very, very pleased again to join all of you, and in particular my friends Peter Fragiscatos and Arielle Kayabaga, to once again be virtually with you in London. I miss visiting your community. I am always fascinated by what's happening in your city. You're setting the trends in many different aspects to do the right thing. For example, you're the only city that I know in Canada that has eliminated chronic homelessness from your veteran population, and you're working hard to do so with other populations as well. And I'm very proud to work with the City of London to continue to make that progress, to make sure that all Londoners have a safe and affordable place to call home. So happy Black History Month. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Well, thank you so much, Honourable Minister Ahmed Hussen. I appreciate you being here and taking the time out of your busy schedule to be a part of what we're trying to do as far as celebrating this month, but also being part of that education process. So thank you so much, and thank you, Arielle, for introducing him as well. It's much appreciated. I'd like to also transition and welcome as well the Honourable Mayor Ed Holder to bring greetings on behalf of the City of London.
Bonjour tout le monde. Merci and thank you for inviting me to be here today. On behalf of our London City Council, I'm so pleased to join you as we officially mark the start of Black History Month here in London and right across North America. You know, this is a time for respecting our past, embracing the present, and impacting the future. Your theme is so appropriate as we reflect on Black history here in London, which dates back to the 1830s, where a population of approximately 60 individuals, almost all of them having escaped from slavery in the United States, came to London. Now, most lived in the vicinity of Horton and Thames Streets, and within 20 years, London's Black population nearly tripled, and there was a church and a school for Black residents. Now, I think of Londoners like Shadrach Martin, the first African-American man to fight in the American Civil War, and he's buried here in Woodland Cemetery. I think of James F. Jenkins, a Londoner, who inspired the NAACP, founded the Canadian League for the Advancement of Colored People in 1924, while also launching the Dawn of Tomorrow, which was Canada's first Black newspaper from his family's home near Highbury and Trafalgar. I think of those who came to London from Jamaica and elsewhere in the Caribbean in the 1960s, helping to revive our city's Black population. And most recently, I think of thousands who have come from Somalia, Sudan, and so many other African nations, and they reside right here in London, Ontario. I think of former city councillors like Harold Usher and current member of council like Mosali and MPs like Arielle Kayabaga, who have worked to make a difference for Black members of our community and, in fact, for all Londoners. Most of all, I think of the Black history that's being written on an ongoing basis by the more than 11,000 Black Londoners who live in our city today. I encourage everyone to take part in activities and events over the next month, be it here in London or elsewhere throughout the region, as we gather and share in cultural celebrations and expressions, as we learn more about our neighbors and break down barriers and stereotypes that still exist. We have much to celebrate from our shared history and much to learn. So on behalf of London City Council, let me wish you all a memorable and meaningful Black History Month. Merci et thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holder. It's thoroughly appreciate that. and for that welcome as well and acknowledgement of Black History Month. It's thoroughly appreciated on our community. Now, what I like to do is actually just kind of let you know some quick background of Black History Month. You know, many people have this idea of why Black History Month and why is it in February? Who started it? Well, roughly 1926, I believe that it was started by a man named Carter G. Woodson. Carter G. Woodson was actually a very interesting man. He was a professor, but also he was actually born, his parents were slaves. And he started this in 1926, roughly, because he noticed that people of his persuasion weren't accurately depicted in the content that he was sharing with his people and students. And so it morphed into that. It was actually a week, and then it morphed into Black History Month. Well, fast forward in Canada, I believe 1979, you can please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the municipality of Toronto was the first city in Canada to formally recognize Black History Month. And it was phenomenal. And so from there, there's a wonderful woman named Jean Augustine. She was the first woman in Parliament, Black woman in Parliament in, I believe, 1993. And then in 1995, I believe 2 years later, she went to the federal government to ask and to talk about the importance of formally recognizing Black History Month across the entire nation. And the vote was unanimously passed. And so that's how it kind of came to our existence, if you will, as Canada, and being formally recognized as a nation, which is wonderful. So we do have actually another performer that I'd like to introduce, but before that, I know there are other elected officials that are on this particular call, and I do want to acknowledge them because the work that they do and the support that they give our communities as well. So as you probably already know, Arielle Kayabaga is the MP for London West. I want to acknowledge her formally as well, again. I'd like to acknowledge Peggy Sadler. She's the MPP for London West, and I thank you for joining the call. I'd like to also acknowledge Teresa Armstrong, and she is the MPP London Fanshawe. I thank you for coming. Also, I'd like to acknowledge Terence Kernahan, and he's the MPP for London North. And also in addition to that, I'd like to acknowledge Lindsay Matheson, and she's the MP for London Fanshawe. And as well, last but not least, I'd like to say thank you as well to Peter Bragastos for coming as well, and he's the MP for London North. So all of you folks that are a part of this call and on this call and part of this program, thank you so much for coming. And now we're going to go over to our another performer. His name is actually Sunday Ajak. Now I'll read a little bit about him before we put him on the screen here. But Sunday Ajak is a 22-year-old motivational speaker, activist, and student at Western University, studying social justice. He says at his core, he's merely a writer who loves to bring his reality and thoughts into reality. Everything he does, everything he's written, everything he's experienced, or thoughts that he has manifested through the amazing people in his life. He says he has a dream that one day his speeches will change the world. And he says, I live in each moment trying to make that a reality. Regardless if I can use my passion for speaking to positively impact at least one person, then I'm living a happy life. He said, I don't wish to be famous or be wealthy. I only seek to help those who may need it, because in the end, I do too. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Sunday Ajak.
Hello, everybody. It is very, very, very nice to see you all. I do recognize some names and some faces, and so I'm very, very glad that I can join here today with you guys. Now, as Leroy said, my name is Sunday, and I must say before I begin how incredibly blessed I feel to be a part of this wonderful ceremony. Albeit even if it is virtual, it still holds an importance in my heart. And I hope it holds the same for you. So with that being said, today I want to invite you to challenge your idea of yourself. I want you to begin to think about the values you hold, the life that you live, and the dreams that you have. Now, for me at least, one of the more important things I want you to know about me, as was mentioned before, is that I like to tell stories. Happy stories, sad stories, stories that have a meaning, and even stories that don't. Because stories have become a part of me. And because of that, some people call me a poet. Some of them call me a motivational speaker. However, I simply, at my core, like to think of myself as a storyteller. So whatever it is that you choose to call me here today, the premise will remain the same. I guess I just like to talk. That's who I am. And so indulge me here, if you will. Let's have a conversation. Now, I don't know about you, but over the years, I've learned to value each and every conversation in its entirety, because you never know what you can learn from another person. So today, I no longer wish to simply talk to you. I feel like that'd be too easy. Rather, I want to talk to you, but you, the person, you at your core. So let's give ourselves the gift of letting go and strip away everything that you think makes you, you. See, I don't really mind what it is that you do, nor do I care about your reputation or your titles, because despite what many people may think, it is not what you do that makes you who you are. So lay focus on my voice as I ask you the most important question of all, a question I ask every single time. Who are you? Seems like a rather easy question to answer now, doesn't it? I mean, you hear it all the time. But think about it like this. For as many times as you've heard that question, how many times have you told the truth? Ladies and gentlemen, the truth is often the easiest thing for us to say, but the last thing that comes out of our mouth. Because when I ask who you are, I don't mean who you are behind your title. I don't mean who you are behind your position. When I ask who you are, I quite simply want to know. If I asked you once, you'd probably tell me your name. If I asked you twice, you'd probably tell me what you do. But what if I asked you a third time? Or a fourth time? Or a fifth time? As many times as I needed to get you past all of those titles, what would you say then? These questions put a little bit of pressure on our image. Because in order to have the conversation that I want to have, we need to be everything but fake. Today, I want to talk to you about what it means to be Black. Not a Black artist, not a Black entrepreneur, not a Black leader, but a Black person. I mean, that is why we are here today now, isn't it? To celebrate what it means to be Black. We want to show everyone, we want to show London, Ontario, that we value diversity. Because to be Black comes with its ups and it just as equally comes with its downs. And believe me, I will be the first person to tell you that events like these, ceremonies like these are of the utmost importance. However, I must be honest. I do have one very small issue with events such as this. Because to me, at least, showing Black excellence isn't about producing a grand spectacle, as amazing as it may be. Showing Black excellence is in the small but meaningful symbols about what a Black person represents, not just shown by Black people, but shown by everybody. Because one thing that we all experience together is pain, sacrifice, inequality, passion. Because above all, it's about us reaffirming who we are. Because the story of who we are has been told many times, but for a Black person, it's told often for us, but not by us. Because we've all heard the stories, the ones that you hear in documentaries, the commercials they air in February. We all know the stories, but I ask you, have you ever heard the story of the slave with no name? It's one of my favorite stories to tell. See, back when the slave trade was at the peak of its existence, and all the slave masters were happy with their way of living, content with how many slaves they had, among the many masters, there was one particular slave that all of them knew. This boy in particular couldn't have been, 5 years old when he was first brought in, but special among the rest, because no one knew who he was. No one knew where he came from. No one even knew his name. Yet he was the hardest working slave there was. And he would never speak to anybody. When he worked, he stayed quiet. When they beat him, he stayed quiet. When they starved him, abused him, he stayed quiet. Never said a word. And for 20 years, a boy turned into a man and saw nothing but pain. That is, until one day, one of the slave masters had died of old age. In an odd twist of fate, the family had decided to let all of their slaves go. And when they broke the news, the slaves left almost immediately, without even turning back or saying goodbye. All of them left quickly, except for one. That is, the slave with no name. So the family came up to him and told him, "You're free to go." But he didn't move. And they said it for a second time, a little more assertive. "You're free. Do not stay here." Yet he didn't move. And they said it for a last time, not angry, but questioning. "Why won't you leave and be free?" He looked up at them. And for the first time in 20 years, he spoke. As he said, "Because I am scared. I don't know who I am. I don't even know my name. And this is all I've ever known." So the family, in amidst their shock that he could even speak, were amazed that he decided to stay. So they took him back. And they treated him all the same. They starved him. They abused him. And he lived and died without ever being free. All because he didn't know who he was, and he couldn't see who he could become. So I ask you again, who are you? I wondered that same question for many years. Because being Black was the easy part. Accepting that I was, that was so hard. And quite frankly, I still may not even be there. There are still so many things that I have yet to understand. I want to understand why Black males account for 37% of the total male prison population. I want to understand why 45% of young Black kids live in poverty. I want to understand why, as a Black driver, I am twice as likely to be pulled over than any other race. I want to understand why in Africa, 10 people die of hunger every single minute. I want to understand why I get to live a life of 20 years average above more than above my family members back home. I want to understand all of these things. But above all, I want to understand why I thought I was living the epitome of inequality, ignorant to what others may experience on a daily basis. See, perspective is a very valuable lesson to learn. As I learned that we, myself included, are the chosen few, the lucky ones. Fate has decided to smile upon every single one of us here today. There is someone who would give their lives to have the same type of life that we have. And I don't say that to make us feel bad about the way that we may live. You know, you may probably be doing leaps and bounds over adversity every single day. I only say that so we are aware, you are aware, I am aware of the collective responsibility that we may share. The responsibility that we have to fight, to strive, to dream of a life where unity is as common as the cold. It's no longer acceptable to attribute being Black with pain, being Black with suffering, being Black with uneducation, being Black with criminality, because these characteristics do nothing but bring us division. And Prince EA said it best. Where there is division, there will be conflict. And conflict starts wars. And the war that we think we're fighting is us versus them. But in reality, which was a hard lesson to learn, that it is us versus us. It is us versus our prejudice. It is us versus our hate. It is us versus our division. It is us versus who we really are. We need to finally understand that who you really are, as I said, who you really are is not in what you do, but rather it is in what you represent. So I bear the question unto you, not who you are, but rather, who do you represent? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sunday, for that powerful, wonderful message. And thank you so much for being a part of this event. You know, although this event is not the be all or end all of everything going on in the world, it is a wonderful platform that we can use that provides Sunday and other people an opportunity to continue this conversation and to talk about issues and concerns that are also very important to our communities, as well as other communities as well. So Sunday, you did a magnificent job with that. Thank you so much for being here. And for those that are on this call as well, I want to thoroughly much appreciate you all being here. So look at this event as a platform, an opportunity, not necessarily the answer to all particular questions, but a way that we can reach those answers when we collectively come together and discuss issues of importance that affect our community in a number of different ways. So the next speaker that we have is, her name is Donna Paris. Donna Paris is a multi-generational African Canadian, born and raised in Nova Scotia, but has called Toronto home for the past 38 years. Donna is one of 3 African Canadian women who started the collective In the Black Canada. Through the collective, they have produced a series of videos entitled In the Black Canada, the Web Chronicles in 2015, in which African Canadians speak about their experiences of being Black in Canada. Their video installation, The Windsor Project in 2017, chronicles the history and experiences of African Canadians growing and living in Windsor, Ontario, and the variety of journeys it took for them and their ancestors to arrive there. The video is now part of the permanent collection of the Art Gallery of Windsor. I turn this over to Donna Paris.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Leroy. And thank you to the London Black Histories Coordinating Committee and Leroy for inviting me to be part of this exciting kickoff event. And I want to do a special shout out to Heather Reynolds, who brought my name to the attention of the committee. And if you've not been to Heather's website, it's called Heather's Historicals, you need to go there. It is a wealth of resources about our people and what we have done and are doing. And thank you in advance to Mark and the tech team, who I've asked to share a video and some photos as I go along. I would like to start my talk with a little iMovie I put together. And I have to say, I'm really proud of myself because I've never done anything like this before. Because back in 2015, I wrote a piece called I Am Black History. The CBC was asking people to send in something that shows how they are connected to Black history. And I was always curious about who I came from and what their experiences were like. And once I had children of my own, I started asking lots of questions of my older relatives, so I could tell my children about their ancestors' journeys of being Black in Canada. And after hearing the request on the radio, I was in my car driving home. I walked into my house, I sat down, and I wrote the piece called I Am Black History. And I often say that the piece wrote itself. It just sort of poured out of me. And it was all the things that I've been learning and thinking and feeling. And I think it fits in really well with the theme of today of respecting the past, embracing the present, and impacting the future. So Mark, go ahead and play the piece, please. My name is Donna Paris, and I am Black History. The story, I am told, is that my great-great-grandfather came to Nova Scotia from Ireland when slavery was abolished in Great Britain. Despite the many hardships he faced, he managed to send his 3 sons to university and a dream into the future so that I can have the life I now live. I am Black history. The story, I am told, is that my white great-grandmother came to Nova Scotia from France. She met and fell in love with a Black man. Her family said, "You can have him or you can have us." Their union produced my grandfather, who produced my mother, who produced me. I am Black history. The story, I am told, is that my paternal grandfather was a member of the No. 2 Construction Battalion, one of over 600 Black men from Ontario, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia, who fought for the right to fight alongside their countrymen, despite the prevailing sentiment that Canada didn't want a checkerboard army. I am Black history. The story, I am told, is that my family was the first Black family to live in the now closed Armed Forces Base, Cornwallis, in Nova Scotia. When my father was posted there, the commanders of the base went around and asked the families how they would feel about having a Black family live next door to them. Then they called my father in and said, "We don't want any trouble from your children." The 5 of us range in age from 6 years to 6 months. I am Black history. The story I am telling is that when my grade 1 teacher gave me a piece to sing and I couldn't do it very well, she said, "What's the matter with you? Don't you know your people can sing?" I am Black history. The story I am telling is that my grade 5 teacher accused me of cheating when I got a 97% on a history test, because how could a little Black girl really be that smart? I am Black history. And the story I am telling is that there was a time and a place when Black people were not allowed to learn how to read. And I now teach children how to read. My name is Donna Paris, and I am Black history. Thank you, Mark. I want to show you a photo of the Canada Post stamp honoring the No. 2 Construction Battalion. Mark could put that up to show people. Some of you might have seen this before. And on the stamp is my grandfather. My grandfather is second from the left on this stamp. His name was Joseph Alexander Paris. And, I knew my grandfather. He died when I was a teenager, but he didn't talk about his experiences of the war. I often think what a difference it would have made for me to have known that. I grew up surrounded by white people, probably right up until I was in university. And I have another photo that I've asked Mark to show. It's my grade 4 class photo. I want you to look at the photo when it gets up and see that there are 38 students in that class, and you see one lone Black student, and that's me. I often felt disconnected to Black folks, and other than my immediate family, I could not see myself in the world around me, and there was no talk about the great things that Black people could or had done. Thanks, Mark. So I Am Black History piece was played several times on the radio, and many people reached out to say that as they were listening to the piece, it felt like I was talking about their lives. Sorry, you don't have to show that picture yet, Mark. Talking about their lives. They had their own stories of racism, the many times of being asked, "But where are you from?" No, but where are your parents from? No, but where are your grandparents from? Since it could not be possible that Black people have been here for so many generations. I have a cousin, his name is Len Paris. He wrote a book called Jim Crow Also Lived Here, about growing up Black and poor in Nova Scotia, which you can find on Friesen Press or on a website of the same name. And Len can trace his father's family back to the late 1700s. We've been here. We've been here a very long time. But for all the stories of hardship people shared with me, there were also stories of triumph. Someone told me about being the first Black person to graduate from their high school in Barrie, Ontario. And someone else told me about being refused service at a restaurant in Windsor, Ontario, and how she brought it to the attention of her father, who brought it to the ombudsman, and the restaurant ended up having to write a letter of apology to, as she said, her 17-year-old self. And she told me that the experience taught her to stand up for herself, and she learned that she could count on support to do so. So hearing from people, I realized that there are so many of us with stories to tell, stories we have never told, stories that are not recorded anywhere, and stories that should be part of our collective education. That is why I do the work I do. I think it's so important that we stop the erasure of our stories and insert the missing pages of Canada's history. And I hope you notice that I didn't say the missing pages of Black history, but the missing pages of Canada's history. Because as the Honourable Minister Ahmed Hussen just reminded us, Black history is Canadian history. We know we're in the middle. This is the kickoff for Black History Month. And as every time it rolls around, there are lots of stories out from the United States that we probably know more about than our own history. We know Martin Luther King. We know Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks. And these are all good stories for us to know. But we have our own stories and our own history to learn about and tell. How many of us know about the Colored Hockey League of the Maritimes, which was an all-Black men's hockey league that was founded in Halifax, Nova Scotia in 1895? That's 20 years before the National Hockey League was founded and 63 years before Hockey League Hall of Famer Willie O'Ree was inducted into, was allowed to suit up to play for the National Hockey League. And some of you might know that just last month, Willie O'Ree's number was retired by the Boston Bruins. One of the players of the Colored Hockey League, Eddie Martin, is credited with inventing the slap shot technique, which, if you know anything about hockey, is a staple part of the game. And if you know anything about the East Coast, or if you've been there to visit, which is where I'm from, Nova Scotia, the members of this team came from Africville, Halifax, Dartmouth, Amherst, Truro, Hammonds Plains, and included the West End Rangers out of Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. Yes, there was a large Black community in Prince Edward Island. And the founders of the Colored Hockey League wanted to instill the qualities of leadership, community, organization, pride, teamwork, and determination. And I have a photo here of the stamp. Well, the stamp is up. Thank you, Mark, for that. In January of 2020, Canada Post issued a commemorative stamp in honor of the League. That is Black history. That is our history. Thank you, Mark. How many of us know about the Black Cross nurses? Again, I found a photo of the Black Cross nurses. We've heard of the Red Cross nurses, but there are also Black Cross nurses. They came out of an initiative by the Universal Negro Improvement Association, a Black nationalist organization founded in 1914 by Marcus Garvey in Kingston, Jamaica, and then moved to Harlem, New York, and eventually had many chapters in cities across Canada. The Black Cross nurses were not professionally trained, but many of them took St. John ambulance courses and provided care and advice on matters of health and hygiene, and they would share information on topics such as first aid and public safety. And the reason they couldn't get professional training? Well, that was because universities such as McGill and University of Toronto would not accept Black women into their courses. Again, that is Black history, our history. Thanks, Mark. And just as an aside, you will be able to learn more about the Black Cross nurses in the new CBC series coming this month. I'm not about promoting the CBC, but it just so happens they have a new series coming out February 21st called The Porters, and you will see the Black Cross nurses in it. I got an advanced look at the first 2 episodes, and it's really going to be good. You're really going to enjoy it. What about Reverend Henry Sneed, who led 194 African Americans to Amber Valley, Alberta, from the deep southern states of Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas. They were a prosperous group. They had a church and a school and their own baseball team, and many of them were farmers, even though the land wasn't easy to farm. They were doing well. Seems like a little too well, because in August 1911, 5 months after Sneed's party arrived in Alberta, efforts to stop Black migration to the country culminated in Canadian Prime Minister Wilfrid Laurier, the very one who was on our $5 bill. He signed an order in council prohibiting for 1 year, and I quote, "the landing in Canada of any immigrant belonging to the Negro race, which is deemed unsuitable to the climate and requirements of Canada." So much for Canada being so multicultural and welcoming. You know, there are hundreds of descendants of the people Sneed brought to Canada still in Alberta today. And we are learning more each day from the Black in the Prairie series and from Karina Vernon, an associate professor at U of T, who has written the Black Prairie Archives, an anthology, which is an amazing book documenting Black Prairie life. And as you can see, the stamp is there. This again is Black history, our history. Thanks, Mark. And you have your own amazing history here in London. I have a photo of a flyer from an article I recently read about London hosting the first ever convention of the Canadian League for the Advancement of Colored People, which brought people together from Toronto and Windsor and in the United States in October 10th, 1927. This is a flyer from the event. And at that convention, they talked about race prejudice and unemployment of Black youth, and they passed 3 resolutions. 1, that we do all within our power to banish petty prejudice, which bars success from ambitious and deserving colored youth. 2, that we prepare our boys and girls to fill any and all positions within the gifts of our country. And 3, that we seek with assistance of fair-minded white citizens to find places for members of our race after they have prepared themselves. They were certainly trying to lay the foundation for those who were coming after them by respecting the past, embracing the present, and impacting the future. That is Black history, our history. Thanks, Mark. These are just 4 of our stories that are not included in the history books or taught in our schools. And even though these stamps show that there is some movement, I think that we all have a job to do, to collect these stories, to share these stories, and to make sure that these stories get included in the telling of Canada's history, so that our young people and future generations will know our history and know that we played a huge part in the history of this country and have a lot to be proud about. That is why I started the In the Black Canada website and the I Am Black History podcast. These are platforms to people to tell their stories in their voices. Because even as Sunday just said, who better to tell our stories than us? And I've asked Mark to put in a link to the podcast and the website in the chat. So if you want to check them out, you'll be able to do so. And I encourage everyone to collect these stories. If you're older, like me, get someone to write it down for you, or better yet, have them record you speaking about your experiences. And if you are younger, ask your aunties and your uncles and your parents and your grandparents about their lives and learn the history of what they went through. Because when they are gone, so too are their stories. I want to finish by saying that I often think about my great-great-grandfather. I think he was thinking about me. I mean, he didn't know me, of course, I wasn't born then, but he knew what he had gone through, and he knew what others before him had gone through. And by doing what he had to do, by pushing through what he had to face day after day, he was laying the foundation for the future, for me. Wouldn't it be great if all of us could if all of our great-great-grands could look back and say, they were thinking about the future. They were thinking about me by respecting the past, embracing the present, and impacting the future. Thank you.
Well, Donna, I just want to say thank you. That was a phenomenal presentation. So much insight, so much revelation. I thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to share and really connecting the conversation to our community as well, which is quite impactful. And please contact Donna. She's got some great information, resources, as well as the other performers. Feel free to do that. I hope I'm not out of line by saying that, but wonderful people. And I thank you very much for being a part of our celebration.
You're welcome. And if people have stories to share, hit me up and let me know. I'm happy to record those stories for you. Thank you. Thank you, Leroy.
You're welcome. And what I like to do as well is we have another performer, but before we get into the next performance, I like to also just very quickly recognize a wonderful gentleman. His name is Brian Meehan. If you don't know who Brian Meehan is, he's the executive director for Museum London. He's going to be retiring this year. And I know we're in COVID protocol, if you will, and the last two opening celebrations, which includes this one, have been online. But all the other years we've had it at Museum London. And Brian Meehan has been very instrumental, and his team, in really putting some things together for us so we can use the facility to host this opening ceremonies and the event. So I just want to say, Brian, if you're on the call, if you're not on the call, I'm not sure if those that are on the call know him or are going to be connected with him anytime soon. You can tell Brian Meehan and also Museum and his team, Museum London, thank you so much for allowing us to do these ceremonies for the last number of years at your facility, which is wonderful. So what I'd like to do now is turn this over to Mercy Mbe, and she's going to introduce our next performer.
Oh, shit. Thank you, Leroy. So our next performer his name is Hwabaraty, but his real name is Japhet Mlauzi. So he's an award-winning musician and cultural ambassador who hails from Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, Southern Africa, which happens to be my home city. Hwabaraty is a versatile musician whose music can be classified as alternative. His sound is influenced by the diversity and depth of his cultural heritage. On stage, he uses song and dance to celebrate unity and humanity while telling stories of African identities. As a peace builder, Hwabaraty is active in community development, using the arts as a leadership development tool of youth. He is currently working on his new album, which will take the listener through his spirituality journey and explore themes of religion, freedom, and community while highlighting the complexities of being in the African diaspora. Hwabaraty's mission is to unite people through music. He believes that music is spiritual and has the capacity to connect people of different backgrounds. Hwabaraty's music is available on all digital platforms, and please do follow him on Instagram and Facebook to stay updated on where he will be performing next. Here is, enjoy.
Hello everyone, my name is Hwabaraty. I'm an artist, a cultural ambassador based in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. Happy Black History Month, everyone. For me, Black History Month is part of learning who we were, who we are, and who we be. I'm a peace builder through music. Yeah, I tell stories that bring together people from all walks of life. I strongly believe that music has got a unique power that connects and tell stories. So today I will tell you my stories. In Africa, we use folk tales as documentation. So my first song is titled Wozandlandla. It's an invitation to good luck, you know. So this song was mainly used in situations where someone is seeking luck or just inviting good spirits, you know.
Wozandlala. Bakithi ngicela ukuzwa umsindo. Ngicela ukuzwa imbululu. Ngicela ukuzwa abathafitsho. Oh! Khwela namasofeni. Oh! Ake ngizwe. Qubula. Qubula.
Siyasha.
Qubula.
Siyasha.
Qubula.
Siyasha.
Qubula.
Siyasha.
Njengomchilo wamakhosikazi ngifela wansi ukujabula abaphansi ngunyoni ntshantshasa nguHwabaraty umdako omnyama inzalo yakhona apha kwabulawa esigodlweni ufuna ukuthini wena Likhona Angelizwa Anyoni yamakhosi
Wozandlala. 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 Winyoni yabelu.
Usho Ngiyagida phela mina mangifuna Ngiyagida phela mina mangifuna Ngide
Batshengisi.
Asabeni Khalela impumelelo Khalela impumelelo Hobulawayo Sambeni sonke sonke Anyoni yamakhosi
Wozandlala. 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 Winyoni yabelu. Wozandlala. 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 Winyoni yabelu.
Colo yeta woza doda Msalani santa Usho Anyoni yamakhosi
Wozandlala. Wozandlala. Wozandlala.
Angizukwela ngizobathafitso Usho
Wozandlala. Wozandlala.
Msalani santa Wozandlala. Sizakhonisa
Winyoni yabelu. Wozandlala. Wozandlala.
Wasale ufuna ukite mina
Winyoni yabelu.
Kakisana ngizokite mina ngizokite uHwabaraty Uzi Agarin kakasana sonke Anyoni yamakhosi
Wozandlala. 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 Winyoni yabelu.
Anyoni yamakhosi
Wozandlala. 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 Winyoni yabelu.
Akarishaleni izandla bakithi
Great. Thank you so much for the performance. And Mercy, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction as well. What I'd like to do is really going forward here is talking a little bit about the idea of what's happening for this month of Black History. So if Mark, you would like to put up the calendar of events for me, that would be greatly appreciated. So just to kind of give you a rundown of what we're actually looking at, this is the kickoff event. But please don't make this the only event that you actually attend, because there are a number of different things that reflect different populations of people. So as you can see, on the 7th of February, we have the Children and Youth Program from 6:30 to 7. And it's just a wonderful opportunity for engaging our young people in this topic here of talking about the significance of Black history in a way that they can understand, that's inspiring, that's creative, and that's enjoyable as well. And on the 11th, you'll notice that MP Kayabaga has a virtual Black History Month celebration as well. And the details are going to be forthcoming. February 12th, we have Faith and Historic Black Churches. It's a film screening and plus presentation, and that's from 2 to 4 p.m. You can see on the screen there. And the write-up is on the right, which I won't go too much into detail with, but you can take a look at that and engage in that conversation as well. February 14th, we have Children and Youth Program again, and it's all online. Most of the events are online virtually just because of the pandemic and the situation that we all collectively find ourselves in. But still, we can still engage even if it's virtual. And that's on the 14th of February. On February 15th, we have the history of the Underground Railroad in Oxford County, which is Oxford County or country, it says. Correct me if I'm wrong, but with Heather Reynolds. And you can take a look at that. Heather Reynolds is on our committee as well. Fantastic person, and she has great resources. Wonderful information, and supporting the work that she's doing is very critical and important from 2 to 4. And if you notice, most of our events are free. And then on the 16th of February, you have the Louis Cray Trailblazer Awards. And if you don't know, Louis Cray is the first Black police officer in London, Ontario. And there's an award celebration regarding this wonderful gentleman and also his family as well. It's an award based on for high school students. And so they enter the award, and they enter themselves in the award, and then the award winners will be acknowledged on this particular event, during this particular event, which is the 16th of February, called Louis Cray Trailblazer Award. And on the 17th of February, Heritage Fair, Multiculturalism in Canada, 50 years later. And that's from 7 to 8 p.m. Excellent. And on the 19th, February 19th, we have the Black History Month Art Workshop. It's on Zoom for ages 8 and plus, and that's from 2 to 2:45 p.m. And that's virtual as well. And you can see the write-up of, as far as the details, what will be expected at that particular event, and give you an overall idea of what your children or people are going to be participating in. And on February 19th, African Food Festival. You know, breaking bread is also very important to our community as well. It's a way of engagement and having wonderful dialogue with each other and those that are outside of our community. And that's the African Food Festival. And on February the 21st, the program, 6:30 to 7. You can do that in the confines of your own home because it is virtual. The 23rd of February, we have the African Caribbean Winter Market. And that is from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And February 23rd again, Origins of Canadian Black Immigrants. There's so much wonderful things taking place, and it's great. All right. So Mark, don't go too fast on me, man. All right, there we go. So, and then also as well, on the February 24th, we have a youth forum, and venues online as well. And the details regarding that are also on this particular page. And then the 28th, Children and Family Program, once again, 6:30 to 7, which is great. And we have closing gala. Mark, did you get to the closing gala? I'm not sure if you saw. Well, we have a closing ceremonies as well. And that's in February, the conclusion of the month. It's on the website. If you go to London Black History Coordinating Committee.ca, which is LBHCC.ca, I believe. Maybe Mark can put that in the chat. You can go on that website and take a look at all the detailed events. And for the closing ceremony, you know, we have Denise Pelly that's going to be performing. We have Mark Smith. We have Charles Innes, King Cruff, Donald Waugh. Please forgive me if I mispronounced your last name. And Adina and other people that are going to be performing. So you don't want to miss that. It's going to be a wonderful time. So that's kind of a synopsis of all the events that were taking place. regarding Black History Month. And like I said before, you know, this is not the only event. This is not the be all and end all of Black history, the opening. This is just part of a larger picture. So please take a look at all the other things that's going on in the month, and please engage yourself, because it would be wonderful to have you a part of that. And I also want to do is very quickly is just celebrate this idea of, and really acknowledge, you know, because I think when our community does something that's very significant as a community, also as an individual, I think it's important that we recognize that within our own community. And then we can get that also recognition outside of that. But I think whether it's small or whether it's large, I think it's really critical to do. And so what I like to do is just share this. You know, I like to recognize Damien Warner. You know, Damien Warner is a wonderful Olympian from London, Ontario, and Olympic champion, committed to the city, you know, although he's known worldwide, and he's raised in this community, and he's doing some great work. And he's not just an Olympian, but he's a very good humanitarian as well. Fantastic role model for not people just are Black, but people from all different nationalities and races. And also Miranda I.M. She's actually an Olympic basketball player from London, Ontario, or lives in London, and she just recently retired. And she's a phenomenal woman. She went to a high school here locally. I also like to recognize an interesting man named Shaden Sharp. Shaden Sharp, he's also a record holder for most points ever in the Olympics. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, he is. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, there's more accolades to name. I don't have all the time to go over all the accolades, but he's doing some great things, as well as the other people I'm going to be acknowledging as well. Shaden Sharp. Shaden Sharp is the #1 recruit in the world, and he signed a letter of intent to play at the University of Kentucky Wildcats for basketball. #1 recruit, and he lives in London, Ontario. He went to a local high school here. And then Eleanor Collins. She's called Canada's First Lady of Jazz. And she's 102 years old. And she's a part of the member of the Order of Canada in 2014. And she's also on Canada Post has unveiled, just before Black History Month, Canada Post has unveiled a stamp honoring Miss Collins, which is phenomenal. And those that have passed along as well. Sidney Poitier. Sidney Poitier passed away last month. And you know, Sidney Poitier was actually, I think he was born in the States, but he was raised in the Bahamas. He's an activist, he's an ambassador. He's the first Black male to win an Academy Award, or an Oscar, if you will, in 1964 for Lilies of the Field. There are 4 other people that have won an Academy Award for our community for a leading role. The other person is Denzel Washington. He won for Training Day. Another person is Forrest Whitaker for playing Idi Amin in The Last Man of Scotland. And Jamie Foxx won an Academy Award for playing Ray in a movie called Ray Charles. And Halle Berry won for playing in a movie called Monsters Ball. So 5 people of color, Black people, that have won an Academy Award for a leading role, not a supporting cast. And I want to honor Sidney Poitier because he just passed away and he's done phenomenal, made a lot of inroads for our community as well. And also Cicely Tyson. What can I say about her? She passed away last year. Brilliant woman. And an actor, Whoopi Goldberg, yes, many other people as well. Bishop Desmond Tutu. You can use the chat, but these are just some examples, not an exhaustive list, just some examples. And the people that are on this call, all right? People that you just heard today perform or even speak. And also people that are in the audience that you may never ever see. They have made a significant contributions to our community. Now, what I'd like to do is introduce our next performer. And his name is John Eniolu. John Eniolu. He is Nigerian born, but raised in Dundee, Scotland, and Ottawa, Canada. He has been playing the saxophone for over 17 years and has been fortunate enough to experiment with many genres, most notably jazz, R&B, soul, gospel, and Afro beats. He enjoys meeting, working, and learning from musicians along the way. With music, you never stop learning, and I'm just a fervent learner, he says, always performing or looking to collaborate contact this wonderful man, John, for your saxophone needs. Introducing Mr. John Eniolu. Thank you, John. Wonderful, wonderful segment. Again, every time I hear him play, it just moves me so much. So what I'll do is also moving forward with our agenda. We have a woman named Scholastica Asahchop. She's going to be talking about the idea of mental health, a mental strength, if you will, because our community, even though we celebrate Black History Month, there are some things that we do deal with on a various basis, whether they're microaggressions and different types of things that impact who we are as a people. And so I like to introduce her as a starting point. As an executive member of SOF, Integrated Wellness Foundation, Scholastica has worked in the social work field for over 17 years, focusing on mental health and child welfare. She is very passionate about equitable mental health services for all, especially those in the BIPOC community who continue to face a lot of barriers accessing cultural and appropriate mental health services. She is a community builder and an activist. She's also very passionate about giving back to the community. She believes it is a blessing to give than to receive. Introducing Scholastica.
Thank you for that warm welcome, Leroy. I'm always very excited in February, as it is the only time we recognize the contribution and sacrifices of our Black heroes, activists around the world. This year, as we respect the past, embrace the present, and impact the future, there is something important we want to bring to your attention. Your mental health, my mental health. Let's talk about it. Mental health challenges and mental illness continue to be considered as a taboo in our community because of the stigma surrounding it. Some facts about mental health. Everyone can experience mental health challenges, no matter your race, your color. It is also not a character flaw. The World Health Organization states that over the course of life, everyone will experience mental health challenge from mild to severe symptoms. They've also pointed out that there is no health without mental health. They've also indicated that about 450 people are living or suffering from some form of mental health this time. That's why we are encouraging you to talk about it. We are encouraging you to seek help when you have challenges. Let's have those conversations in our living rooms and in our social circles to help normalize it, to help normalize that it's okay to go and talk to someone when we are not feeling okay. Because of the stigma and stereotypes, people feel ashamed, embarrassed, and do not talk about their mental health illness or challenges. Some deliberately live in denial and dissociate from the symptoms, but they only get worse. The unfortunate part is that unresolved mental health challenges can affect different aspects of a person. It can affect your mood, your personality, your perception, how you function, how you relate with your loved ones, and how you treat people around you. That is why we should be talking about it and seeking help when there is a need. Just like you see a doctor for your physical health conditions, like diabetes, high blood pressure, what have you, you also need to see a professional when you have mental health challenges. It is not a character flaw. The pandemic has changed the way we live and connect with each other. Our living rooms, dining, kitchen, bedrooms have become our offices with no healthy boundaries. We have lost loved ones during the course of the pandemic and have not even had the opportunity to give them proper burials. People are living in isolation and cannot do things that they enjoy doing. Yes, the world is experiencing a collective crisis. It is normal to be struggling with fluctuating emotions, including stress, anxiety, uncertainty. Suicide rate is also on the rise. That's why we need these conversations in our community. On top of that, as a Black person, as racialized people, we have a full-time job dealing with race-based stress, intergenerational trauma, microaggression, immigration issues, people, finding the right job. Anti-Black racism is also on the world front page because of continuous police brutality, unjust killings, just to name a few. The Black Lives Matter movement has accelerated race conversations around the world, which is a good thing, but it has also reopened wounds for some of us. It is okay to see a professional and talk to them if you are not coping well. We want to emphasize the importance of seeking professional help. We have some culturally appropriate mental health professionals and services within our community. Please reach out and contact us for more information if you need that. I also want to acknowledge the fact that we do not have enough services in our community. I'm happy that we have some of our MPs here as city councilors and policymakers. We want you to be aware that we need accessible culturally appropriate mental health services in the Black community and the BIPOC community as a whole. I have talked to other mental health professionals, and we've all observed that for the first time, our people are going and seeking help more than ever before. But the sad part is that they don't have good health care coverage or health benefits because of some of the jobs that we have to do, because of underemployment. So we are struggling, and we want you to take this seriously. Some of us are working on pro bono basis just to help our people because we get it. We know what it means to talk only to someone who will understand. Someone that when you are able to describe a situation of microaggression, they will know what you are talking about. We need more equity in mental health services. Here are some self-help tips that I want you to go with. Prioritize your self-care. It is very important. It helps improve your emotional regulation. It helps reduce some of the symptoms that you may be having. So please be intentional about your self-care. Also develop your social supports and allies. People that you can talk to, people who can validate your feelings. I will share a little personal story. I was once minimized to the point where I got home with a very low self-esteem, feeling like I was not enough. And by the time I called an auntie and explained, and she shared with me that I'm a manager where I work. And each time people will come and say they're looking for a manager. She will say I'm the one, but they will be pointing, going towards the direction of who they think should be a manager. And she's told me that it used to bother her. But she got to the point where she knows that they will go and come back to her. And she just watch when she tells them that I'm the manager and they look at me as if I'm not fit to be one. And it doesn't bother me. I went to bed that night feeling less stressed. She made my night, and that is the power of allyship. That's why you should do that. I also want us to be each other's keeper. If you realize that someone is struggling, talk to them, reach out. People will often say, I'm doing okay. But you know, even in a dying bed, somebody is going to say, I'm doing okay. So please dig deeper. When you dig deeper, you may encourage the person to let you know how they are feeling. And we will also encourage you for those that have sought help. If you are comfortable, share with others because that's what is going to help normalize it. Share with them your experience. And if possible, refer them to someone that you know is going to be able to help them. I want to help us, tell us that it's important for us to break the stigma in our community. In conclusion, as we celebrate the Black History Month this February, I also want us to use this time as a mental health awareness month in our community. That's a challenge for you and I. Thank you, Leroy.
Thank you so much, Scholastica. So many strong pieces of information in that presentation, and I thank you so much for being a part of it. She's also part of our committee, the opening celebration committee, as well as Mercy Mbe, who introduced our performer as well. So we're concluding the program, because I know it's 2:33 and it says 2:30 on the conclusion. So let me just conclude by saying this, just to go over some thank yous. I want to say thank you to our committee, the opening committee, Mercy Mbe, and also Scholastica, Asahchop as well. I want to say thank you to the larger community, the London Black History Coordinating Committee, for all their support through all these different things that we have to contend with. I want to thank the mayor, Ed Holder, for coming, and all city councilors for being a part of the opening, all the political leaders that are here. Donna Paris, what can I say? Thank you so much for your excellence and being here. John, Eniolu, your saxophone performance, beautiful. Thank you so much. Sunday Ajak, you're amazing. Keep doing what you're doing, my friend, and we support you in your endeavors. And Hwabaraty, please forgive me for mispronouncing the gentleman's name of the performance, but he was, Mercy, when you introduced him and when we saw that performance and how he was so willing to be a part of this, even though he's not physically here, says a lot. And he's such a gifted person, gifted performer. Also, Helen Hibbert, my wife, I just want to say thank you so much for choosing me. and then also performing as well. And also Mark Drew, our IT person. I want to say thank you so much for doing the behind the scenes work on Zoom for us. I also want to say, I know this is self-serving, Luso Community Services, our staff that may be here or may not be here, but thank you so much for your support. And the audience, I mean, you folks took some time out of your schedule to come to be a part of this. And I want to say thank you so much for coming out. And Mercy, I like to do this. Mercy, if you can use your microphone as well. And if you can also, in addition, pronounce the guest performer that came for us. Pronounce his name for me, Mercy.
Okay, so Hwabaraty, and my name is Mercy Ndleya Ncube. So I will have to practice on the next meeting.
Mercy Mbe. My mistake. All right. Well, I'm getting there. Thank you all so much for your grace. All right. And for all of you that are in the room here, this concludes the program. All the best to you, and may you enjoy your Black History Month. Mercy Mbe, and thank you so much. Awesome. And everyone else, all the best to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.